Do you have a favorite episode of the show? I've seen pretty much every episode, and I have to tell you, every time it gets me, and I do cry along with you.
Along with me.
So, do you have a favorite episode?
There is a place in Purdy, Missouri called Camp Barnabas. Camp Barnabas is the patron saint of encouragement. The Tease family moved from Texas to Purdy, Missouri, and they bought a summer camp, and they turned that summer camp into a place for disabled children. So 12 weeks out of the summer, about 2,000 kids are able to go through that camp. So whenever we're able to do something that doesn't just touch the lives of one family, but affects so many people, it's a good week for us. And to be able to see these kids, that from cerebral palsy to being blind, to be able for them to do those same summer things we did as kids, to swing on a rope, to land in a lake and do that kind of stuff, it's great.
It really warms your heart.
Oh, yeah, it's phenomenal.
But I'm sure we also all think the same thing on this, or have this question, and I think you said you got asked this yesterday. You mentioned a week. How does the show get done in a week? How do you do all this inside of such a short period of time?
Well, it's not a week. It's television. Of course, it's Hollywood. Of course, it's not a week. It's actually 5.5 days. From beginning to end, 5.5 days.
So it's less than a week. Okay.
How is it done? It is done with a great deal of a volunteer effort that is numbers 2,000. I watched 400 sheets of drywall get hung in 1 hour. 1 hour with 300 hangers. So my hat's off to our contractors. We have it's kind of like a military. It just everybody attacks this thing all at once. And what's amazing, after 150 some homes, I think only 2 injuries. One being Ed, where he cut his hand. I know you're going to talk to Ed later on today. And another where a guy fell out of an avocado tree picking avocados. But it's an amazing thing to watch. You never get bored watching a house go up in 5.5 days.
Oh, I'm sure, and it's so rewarding at the end. To move the bus and have them see their new home.
Yeah, I always say there are 2 amazing things we do in a week. One is build a house, the other is make a television show about building that house.
Right.
And in the end, a family has a home that would have never had that opportunity. So, you can kind of kick Hollywood to the side and at the end just look at your week for what it was.
Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. Do you have any tips for our professional audience on designing?
Yes, I think, one of the keys is listen to the client.
Okay.
We sometimes as designers have egos that we want to instill onto our clients. Now, granted, we have the knowledge, but we want to make sure that the client knows what's out there. Sometimes we don't listen to the client. We don't listen to the homeowner. It's their home. It's if we can live in their shoes for a few hours, I think we're going to be able to design better. And I think from that education that we get from the people we work for, they're the people that are going to talk to their neighbor and say, hey, Christina came, she built me a kitchen, and everything I asked for, she found a way to put it into this kitchen, along with things that I never thought were going to work, that you were able to make work. That in turn is told to a neighbor, who is told to another neighbor, and all of a sudden, your Rolodex starts filling up with a lot of clients. It keeps you working, and it's all just because you're listening. The other thing I think it's important for us to do is educate those people. Tell them why we're doing the things we're doing, and let them in on a few of the secrets that we know as professionals. Well,
talking about education, I know the environment is very important to you.
Yes.
So how can we all become a little bit more conscious of
Recycle. Number one is, to try to do those things that are offered up pretty easily to us. In California and New York, it's very easy for us to recycle. We have our blue bins, we have our black bins. In other places, it's not so easy. But I think it's going to get that way. The other thing is look to those products that are green. Do those little things you can do to insulate your home better. Turn off light switches, those simple things, without having to go into a whole remodel and adding all this insulation, which is also very good. If we can just ourselves, when you leave that room, turn off the light switch. That's simple. Use a little less water. Put in those water-saving devices.
Something where you don't have to think about it. It takes care of it for you.
Think about that. Right. That does by itself.
Okay, great. What are some other issues you're passionate about?
Well, outside of the building is certainly music. Music is a universal language. One of the things I've learned doing this show is that kids of all type are touched by music, whether they're playing it, whether they're listening to it, whether they're making it on their knee. So music is a big passion of mine. The other thing is I love cooking, and so at some point I'd like to make cheese. So I'm doing a lot of reading about goats and cows and things like that. So cheese, very passionate about cheese.